Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, adapting a beloved long-running anime into a live-action series is, well, it's usually like trying to play a sweeping, complex, 100-piece orchestral symphony on, like, a single plastic kazoo.
Right. Yeah, that's a very accurate way to put it.
Like, you have to strip away so many instruments,
Huh.
right? So much of that wild, chaotic magic just to make the core melody recognizable for a general audience.
Exactly. It's this calculated, almost mathematical reduction. You have to take a medium that is entirely defined by its boundless gravity-defying
Right.
nature.
Hyper-expressive stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the hyper-expressive animation. And somehow you have to ground those fantastical elements into our physical flesh and blood reality.
Which is incredibly hard.
It is. And historically, that translation process, it often means sacrificing the very soul that made the original work special to begin with.
Oh, totally. You strip away the wildness just to make it fit onto a practical soundstage. And we have
Yeah.
seen that happen so many times in the entertainment industry.
Too many times.
Right. The quote-unquote live-action anime curse is a very real, very terrifying graveyard of cinematic disappointments.
It really is.
We've all learned to heavily temper our expectations. But then you step into the world of Netflix's One Piece, and suddenly it feels like the showrunners didn't just, build a better kazoo.
Yeah.
They somehow managed to bring the entire impossible orchestra to life.
They really did. It is the absolute definition of walking an impossible creative tightrope. And they
Yeah.
didn't just walk it once in their freshman outing, right? They have come back to do acrobatic backflips on it.
They really have. So today we are taking a massive deep dive into the newly released One Piece Season 2.
Which is officially subtitled Into the Grand Line.
Right, into the Grand Line. And our mission here today is to provide a comprehensive review and just a microscopic breakdown of this highly anticipated sophomore season.
You really need to answer the ultimate question for you, the listener. Does this season truly surpass the phenomenal first season?
Exactly. Can a production team actually catch lightning in a bottle twice?
And to figure that out, we have assembled a truly exhaustive stack of source material for this deep dive.
Oh, we've got everything.
We really do. We are synthesizing critical reviews from major outlets, places like the AV Club, IGN, Screen Rant.
But we aren't just stopping at the critics, right?
No, absolutely not. We've also pulled deep dive audience reactions, lengthy debates, and fan theories scraped directly from Reddit threads.
Which get wild.
Oh, very wild. We have incredibly detailed Easter egg breakdowns from YouTube analysts and geek tyrants, alongside official Netflix streaming data, exact episode runtimes, and behind-the-scenes production notes.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right?
Because the sheer ambition on display here is staggering.
It really is.
Like we mentioned the live-action curse earlier, and second seasons of adapted shows are just notoriously vulnerable to the sophomore slump.
Right, the novelty wears off.
Exactly. The novelty wears off, the budget gets stretched thinner across bigger ideas, and frankly, the audience gets way more critical.
They expect more.
But One Piece Season 2 debuted with a mind-blowing 100% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes,
Which is just...
alongside a 99% audience score. I mean, in today's hyper-fragmented media landscape, those are numbers you almost never see for any property, let alone an anime adaptation.
It's virtually unheard of, especially for a property that is this heavily scrutinized by a protective global fan base,
Yeah, the One Piece fans do not mess around.
They do not. And to understand why this season is being heralded as an absolute triumph of tone by both critics and diehard fans, we have to start by looking at the sheer, terrifying scale of the world these characters are entering.
The world expands massively here.
Right. The narrative structure shifts dramatically the moment this season begins. We are officially leaving the East Blue behind.
Right, which is wild to think about because the East Blue felt dangerous in Season 1. But compared to where they are going, the East Blue was essentially the kiddie pool in the backyard.
Precisely. The East Blue is relatively stable, like the geography made sense.
Rather acted like water.
Exactly. The oceans behaved like oceans. But the Grand Line, which is this legendary stretch of ocean that circles the equator of this world, it is a completely different paradigm.
It's pure chaos.
It is an ocean where the fundamental laws of physics, weather, and magnetism just completely break down.
For listeners who might not be deep into the world building, can we actually explain how bizarre the Grand Line is? Because it's not just, bigger waves.
Oh, not at all. So in the Grand Line, you cannot use a normal compass.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because the magnetic fields of the individual islands are so overwhelmingly strong that they scramble standard navigation entirely.
So how do they even get around?
You have to use a device called a log pose.
Right, the glass compass thing.
Exactly. It locks onto the magnetic frequency of the next island in the chain. Furthermore, the weather is violently unpredictable. I mean, you can have a raging blizzard, and 10 minutes later, a scorching drought.
That sounds miserable to sail through.
And on top of that, the sea itself is populated by monsters the size of small continents. So to capture that impossible scale, the showrunners fundamentally had to expand their canvas.
And you really feel that expansion in the runtime, too. Like, Netflix gave this season a lot of room to breathe.
They definitely did.
We are looking at an official 8-hour total runtime that is exactly 481 minutes spread across 8 episodes.
Making it a full half-hour longer than the first season.
Which is a big deal in streaming. But it isn't just about throwing more minutes at the screen. It's about how those minutes are meticulously allocated to convey this geographic chaos.
The structural breakdown of these episodes is really fascinating when you look at how they manage the pacing of this journey.
Let's actually look at that, because the journey itself kind of is the plot here.
Yeah, let's break it down.
So episode 1 is titled The Beginning and the End, and it clocks in at 66 minutes.
Right.
And it takes place entirely in Logtown, which is the historic city where the last pirate king was executed.
It's a very grounded European-style cobblestone city. Very structured.
Exactly. But immediately after that, episode 2, which is called Good Whale Hunting at 63 minutes, throws us right into the madness. I mean, they literally have to sail their ship up a mountain.
Reverse mountain, yes.
Yeah.
This is the only entrance into the Grand Line where 4 ocean currents collide and actually force water to flow up an incline.
It's a breathtaking visual achievement in the show. I couldn't believe they pulled it off.
It really is.
And from there, the environments just get more and more unhinged. So episode 3 is Whiskey Peak at 63 minutes.
The desert cactus town.
Right. Then we hit this massive structural pivot with episodes 4 and 5, which are Big Trouble and Little Garden and Wax On, Wax Off.
And those run for 54 and 57 minutes, respectively.
Yeah, and this is a prehistoric island trapped in time, like completely populated by roaming dinosaurs and battling giants.
And then, as if the audience hasn't had enough whiplash from the dinosaurs.
Oh man, the tonal shift here is crazy.
It really is. Episodes 6, 7, and 8, running between 55 and 63 minutes, each drop us onto Drum Island.
Which is just a freezing alpine winter wonderland. The episodes are Nami Dearest, Reindeer Shames, and Deer and Loathing in Drum Kingdom.
So you look at that geographic progression, right? From a historic city to a physics-defying mountain to a desert canyon in Whiskey Peak.
To a prehistoric jungle.
And finally to a sub-zero winter kingdom. The environmental shifts are incredibly violent.
Which actually brings me to a major question I had going into this. And I saw this exact concern echoed across multiple Reddit threads before the season even dropped.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say.
Right. If you are constantly changing the settings, so drastically, literally changing the genre of the landscape every 2 episodes, how does the show avoid feeling like an unglued theme park ride?
It's a very valid concern.
How does it not just fracture into a disconnected anthology series where nothing feels cohesive?
Well, that is the ultimate structural challenge of adapting the Grand Line saga, because the original manga author, Eiichiro Oda, loves to jump between distinct island themes.
He loves a fresh aesthetic.
He does. So to solve this for a serialized television format, the showrunners, Matt Owens and Joe Trax, relied on 2 incredibly strong connective tissues.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, they introduced a centralized, overarching antagonistic force, Baroque works.
Right. Instead of just running into random, isolated pirate crews on every island like they did in the East Blue.
Exactly. There's a larger conspiracy at play. Baroque Works is a massive, syndicated, secretive criminal organization.
Like a mafia.
Kind of, yeah. Their bounty hunters and assassins are stationed across all these different islands. So whether the crew is fighting in a cactus town or a dinosaur jungle, they are tangling with the exact same corporate ladder of villains.
That makes a lot of sense. It gives the varied, chaotic locations a unified, escalating threat.
But the second, and I would argue far more important connective tissue, is the consistent emotional core of the crew.
The people inhabiting these wild settings. You know, I actually think this is where the live-action format has a distinct advantage over animation.
How so?
Well, when you have flesh and blood actors, the subtle, quiet moments between the massive set pieces really ground the story. Like, the environments are getting wilder, the physical threats are becoming completely absurd. But the reason you stay anchored as a viewer is because you're watching these 5 people evolve together.
Exactly. We transition from caring about the setting to caring deeply about the people moving through it. The world expands outward, but their internal bonds deepen inward.
Let's dive into those people, actually. Because this season is definitively bigger, more emotional, and far more ambitious than Season 1, largely because of how much these specific characters are forced to grow.
They really are put through the ringer.
Let's start right at the top, with the captain, Monkey D. Luffy, played by Iñaki Godoy.
Inyaki's performance in the first season was praised so much for capturing Luffy's boundless, almost cartoonish optimism.
He is a literal sunbeam of a character.
He really is. But what the reviewers and the fan analysts are pointing out this season is a nuanced shift in his portrayal. You clearly see his evolution into a serious, burdened captain.
Yes, his belief in his crew is the absolute emotional backbone of the entire story. Like, there is this incredible defining moment early on in episode 2.
Oh, with the whale.
With the whale. The crew has just entered the Grand Line and they immediately encounter Laboon, who is this impossibly massive island-sized whale that is furiously ramming its head against the Red Line continent.
It's clearly in deep, deep distress.
Right. Now, a lesser protagonist would see a monster and attack it, or just flee in terror, but Luffy recognizes pain.
He doesn't see a monster.
Exactly. Instead of fighting, he stands on the deck and starts singing the pirate shanty Bank's sake to calm the whale down.
It's a beautifully empathetic moment. It demonstrates that Luffy isn't just, a rubber brawler looking for a fight. He is a leader who intuitively understands emotional suffering.
Empathy is his true superpower. Not the fact that his body is made of rubber, but his ability to instantly connect with the pain of others and shoulder it.
And that radical empathy inspires absolute unquestioning devotion from his crew. Which brings us perfectly to his first mate, Roro Araro, played by Makenyu.
Zoro is an absolute standout this season.
He serves as the ultimate straight man to the crew's chaotic energy, right? But this season, his role as the crew's physical protector is pushed to the absolute limit.
Oh, for sure.
And from a production standpoint, his action sequences have been vastly upgraded. The fight choreography is noticeably less floaty, it's sharper, and it carries significantly more physical weight than in Season 1.
The mechanics of his sword fights are unbelievable this time around. There is a standout sequence during the Whiskey Peak arc.
The night ambush.
Yes. The crew is being ambushed in the middle of the night by dozens of Baroque Works bounty hunters. The rest of the crew is asleep, just totally exhausted from the journey.
And Zoro realizes it's a trap.
Right. And instead of waking them up and causing a panic, he quietly steps outside and single-handedly takes on an entire town of assassins.
It is a breathtaking display of his three-sword style. They utilized incredibly tight camera work and grounded martial arts choreography. But beyond the spectacle of it, it's a profound character moment.
It really is.
He willingly takes on the physical burden of a 100-man fight simply so his captain and his friends can get a good night's sleep.
He is the immovable shield. But, a ship can't sail with just a shield. It needs a brain. And that is our navigator, Nami, played by Emily Rudd.
Her arc is fantastic.
I was struck by how much stronger Nami's character depth is this season.
Well, in Season 1, Nami's entire narrative arc was about learning to let her guard down and actually trust people.
Right, the whole Arlong Park betrayal thing.
Exactly. In Season 2, she is the intellectual engine of the ship. Her navigation skills and her pragmatic, emotional decisions are literally the only reasons they survive the chaotic weather of the Grand Line.
But ironically, the writers brilliantly subvert her newfound strength by making her entirely physically vulnerable.
Yes, the illness.
This isn't a battle injury. She contracts an incredibly rare lethal disease from a prehistoric insect on Little Garden. And her unexpected, life-threatening illness becomes the entire catalyst for the second half of the season.
It completely shifts the dynamic of the crew. Up until this point, Nami has been the one telling them where to go and how to survive. Suddenly, the compass is broken.
Right.
The crew has to put their overarching quest for the One Piece completely on hold. They risk everything to find a doctor, proving that their bond to her is absolute.
And Nami, being bedridden, forces the other members into really interesting, desperate positions. Like, look at Sanji, played by Taz Skylar.
Oh, Sanji is great this season.
Sanji is the ship's cook, and he brings so much style and swagger to the crew. He has this incredibly smooth combat style where he only uses his kicks, protecting his hands for cooking, obviously.
And the stunt team does a great job blending breakdancing and capoeira to make it look really grounded.
Yeah, the fights look amazing. But because Nami is sick, Sanji's role as the nurturer is pushed to the forefront.
We get profound emotional depth from him this season. There is a quiet, beautifully lit scene where he tells a story about cooking for his mother when he was a child.
That scene was so touching.
It adds so much texture to his character. He isn't just a suave fighter. He shows his love for his found family through practical care, through the meticulous preparation of the food that sustains them.
I love how they balance his suave demeanor with that genuine care. But okay, we have the rubber god, the demon swordsman, the genius navigator, and the martial arts chef. And then we have Usopp.
Played by Jacob Romero, Usopp is perhaps the most fascinating case study in how to adapt a deeply flawed anime archetype for Western live-action television.
I have this analogy for Usopp. Usopp is you.
Me.
He is the listener right now. If you or I were suddenly dropped onto a tiny pirate ship, sailing into a sea filled with continent-sized sea monsters, dinosaur islands, and syndicates of assassins,
We'd be terrified.
we wouldn't be swinging 3 swords with a straight face. We wouldn't be stretching our arms to punch giants. We would be absolutely terrified. We would be standing in the back, knees shaking, trying to talk our way out of certain death.
That's very true.
He is the only normal, fragile human being in a crew of absolute monsters.
And that profound fragility is exactly what makes his character arc of fear versus courage so deeply resonant. Reviewers and the One Piece Reddit community have overwhelmingly highlighted Usopp as the single most improved character from Season 1.
Oh, easily.
The writers grounded his cowardice. He feels incredibly relatable now.
His arc reaches this beautiful crescendo in Little Garden. The crew meets Dory and Brogy, 2 massive giant warriors who have been locked in a duel of honor on this island for 100 years.
Right.
Usopp looks at these colossal figures who continue to fight despite the absurdity of their situation, despite forgetting why they even started fighting in the first place. And it fundamentally changes his understanding of what it means to be a brave warrior of the sea.
It provides him with a tangible template for bravery. And alongside that emotional growth, the writers implement a brilliant comedic touch regarding Usopp's notorious habit of lying.
Oh my gosh, the lie's coming true. It is the best running gag of the season.
It really is.
Usopp constantly spins these grand, ridiculous tales to make himself look tough to strangers. But in the grand line, the world is so weird that his absurd lies keep accidentally coming true.
Yes.
Like, he'll joke in a tavern about having fought a giant mole monster, and then literally an episode later, they actually have to deal with subterranean threats. He brags about having lived inside the stomach of a giant whale, and hours later, the ship is swallowed by Laboon.
It's a masterful way to validate his character's quirks within the narrative. But what really sells all of this, Luffy's empathetic leadership, Zoro's stoic loyalty, Nami's critical vulnerability, Sanji's nurturing care, and Usopp's hard-won courage, is the palpable real-life chemistry of the cast.
You can just feel it.
You really can. If you read the production notes and watch the behind-the-scenes interviews, it is obvious that the actors' genuine off-screen friendships have completely bled into their on-screen performances.
They don't feel like actors hitting their marks on a soundstage. They feel like a genuine, lived-in, messy found family.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that familial bond is tested and shifted entirely when we reach the back half of the season. We have to talk about the absolute heart of Season 2.
Oh, here we go.
We have to talk about the introduction of the crew's newest and undoubtedly their most technically and emotionally challenging member to adapt, Tony Chopper.
Tony Chopper. Chopper was the ultimate crucible for the showrunners. I mean, it is difficult to overstate the pressure they were under here.
It was make or break.
Completely. Adapting a blue-nosed, bipedal, talking reindeer who also happens to be a brilliant medical doctor, that is a concept that works flawlessly in ink and paper.
In anime, it's fine.
Right, but in live action, if they got Chopper wrong, if he looked too much like a cheap cartoon, or worse, if he fell into the uncanny valley and looked terrifyingly realistic.
Like the original Sonic movie trailer design.
Exactly like that. The entire emotional weight of the back half of the season would have completely collapsed under its own absurdity.
It was the biggest source of anxiety for the fandom. But reading the critical consensus, they absolutely nailed it. Like, the reviews are universally calling Chopper a technical triumph.
He really is.
I really want to dig into how they did this, because it's not just a CGI model pasted into the frame.
No, they utilized a highly sophisticated mix of top-tier CGI and physical prosthetics. Many VFX analysts are actually comparing the digital fidelity of his standard small reindeer form to the groundbreaking work done in the Detective Pikachu movie.
Oh, I can see that.
It requires incredibly complex subsurface scattering on the fur and precise lighting to make him feel present in the environment.
But the stroke of genius is how they handled his transformations. Because of his devil fruit powers, Chopper can shift his body into different forms, right?
Right.
When he transforms into his heavy point, which is a large, muscular, imposing humanoid shape they didn't use CGI, he is actually played by a physical actor in a prosthetic suit, Gavin Gomes.
And that practical choice is vital for the visual language of the show. By having a physical actor in a suit for the heavy point, it forces the lighting department to light a physical object on set.
It casts real shadows.
It casts real, authentic shadows. More importantly, it gives the other actors a physical mass to react to and make eye contact with. It basically tricks our brains into accepting the digital version of him later because we have seen him take up genuine physical space in the scene.
It's a perfect blend of digital and practical filmmaking, but, all of that technical achievement would be nothing if the writing didn't back it up.
The story has to be there.
And it is. Chopper's introduction is universally cited as one of the most memorable, devastating parts of the entire season. Episode 7, titled Reindeer Shames, delves entirely into his backstory, and it is just heart-wrenching.
We witness the agonizing pain of his deep isolation. He is a creature caught between two worlds and rejected by both.
Which is so sad.
He is ostracized by his own reindeer herd for being born with a blue nose, and later for accidentally eating a della fruit that gave him human intelligence.
But then when he tries to approach humans...
Right, his strange appearance causes them to see him as a monster, and they hunt him.
He is completely alone in the freezing snow until he meets Dr. Hiruluk, played just beautifully by Mark Herlick.
Oh, he was perfectly cast.
Now, Hiruluk is a fascinating character. Medically speaking, he is a total quack. Like, he is a fraud who regularly makes his patients worse. But spiritually, he is exactly what Chopper needs.
He heals Chopper's broken soul.
Yes, he is the first living being to show this little reindeer unconditional love. He calls him a doctor. He gives him his iconic pink top hat.
And that tender, unconventional father-son relationship is juxtaposed with the tough love mentorship Chopper receives from Dr. Korea.
Played by the legendary Katie Seagal.
Yes. But what elevates this storyline from a simple tragedy to a profound thematic statement is how the show handles Dr. Hiruluk's underlying philosophy.
Yes, his speech. Hiruluk has this deeply profound, beautiful monologue about mortality. He poses a question to the audience. When does a person truly die?
Is it when they're shot?
Right. Is it when they eat a poisonous mushroom? No. A person only truly dies when they are forgotten.
It is a staggering piece of writing. Hiruluk recognizes that Drum Island is suffering from a sickness much deeper than physical ailments.
The whole society is sick.
Exactly. The people have been subjugated by a tyrant who hoarded all the doctors, leaving the citizens living in constant fear and apathy. Hiruluk's grand dream, his life's work, isn't to cure a specific disease. He wants to engineer a chemical reaction that will cure the sick, frozen heart of the entire island.
And that philosophy culminates in the season finale with what fans refer to as the cherry blossom miracle.
The emotional peak.
It is arguably the emotional peak of the series so far. After Hiruluk's tragic death, Dr. Korea fulfills his final wish. She launches his life's work, this chemical powder, into the sky from the island's central castle cannons.
And the reaction is just...
The powder reacts with the atmosphere and it turns the endlessly falling winter snow into a vibrant, glowing pink. It blankets the bleak, frozen island in what looks exactly like a rain of warm cherry blossoms.
What's fascinating here is the visual poetry of that moment. It is astonishing. And reading the audience reactions, it is the moment that brought viewers to absolute tears.
I know, I teared up.
The pink snow represents hope returning to a hopeless place. And it's the exact moment Chopper realizes he cannot stay hidden in the castle anymore. He has to leave the island and set sail with Luffy to fulfill Hiruluk's dream of becoming a doctor who can cure any disease in the world.
It is masterful, emotionally resonant storytelling. But the showrunners also made sure to weave in some brilliant foreshadowing for the hardcore fans during this emotional climax.
Oh, the bag.
Right at the end, when Chopper is packing his medical bag to leave, the camera lingers for just a second on these small, metallic-looking spheres tucked inside. Veteran fans immediately flooded Reddit, identifying them as rumble balls.
Which is a crucial detail for his future character development. For the uninitiated, rumble balls are an experimental drug developed entirely by Chopper's medical genius.
So what do they do?
By ingesting one, he can temporarily disrupt the wavelengths of his devil fruit, allowing him to access several distinct, highly specialized physical transformations for combat.
Like what kind of forms?
Forms like enhancing his jumping ability, his guard, or his arm strength.
Teasing them here shows that the creators aren't just thinking about Chopper as a cute mascot. They're actively planting the seeds for his evolution as a highly capable fighter in the seasons to come.
Exactly. And he is going to need those combat abilities because the threats in the Grand Line are a massive step up from the localized pirates of the East Blue.
Let's transition to those threats, actually, because the obstacles pushing our heroes to their limits are what forced this growth. And interestingly, the first major wall they hit this season isn't a pirate at all. It's the law.
The Marines.
Right. We are formally introduced to the Marines' heavy hitters. Captain Smoker, played by Callum Kerr, and his subordinate Tashigi, played by Julia Rewald.
Smoker represents a terrifying paradigm shift for Luffy. Up until now, Luffy could basically punch his way out of any problem. But Smoker ate the smoke fruit, a specific classification of devil fruit that fundamentally alters his physical state.
I want to pause here for listeners who might be a bit lost on the terminology because the show throws devil fruits around a lot. What exactly is a devil fruit, and what are the absolute rules governing them?
So a devil fruit is a mystical, terrible-tasting fruit that grants the eater a unique superpower. Luffy's body turned to rubber. Chopper gained human intelligence and transformations.
But there's a catch, right?
There is a massive, terrifying trade-off. The sea fundamentally rejects anyone who eats a devil fruit. If a user is submerged in water, they instantly become paralyzed and sink like a stone.
Which, if you think about it, is an incredibly cruel irony for a world entirely populated by pirates navigating a global ocean.
It's a brilliant limitation, and Smoker's fruit allows him to literally turn his body into thick, billowing smoke.
So you can't hit him.
Right. He can fly, he can choke out opponents, and most importantly, physical attacks just pass right through him. You can't punch smoke.
And the VFX work on Smoker was heavily praised, right?
Yes, because it didn't just look like a cheap, computer-generated fog overlay. The smoke felt dense, tangible, and physically heavy. It completely envelops and traps people.
Smoker brings an immediate, relentless tension. He is the unyielding arm of the law, providing constant pressure from behind, forcing the crew to keep moving forward.
Constantly chasing them.
But while Smoker is the systemic threat, the immediate, localized threat of the emotional Drum Island arc is King Wapol, played by Rob Coletti.
Yes, Wapol.
Okay, this is where I want to offer some genuine pushback. I spent a lot of time reading the One Piece subreddits after the premiere, and a highly upvoted critique was that Wapol felt like a massive step down from the villain of Season 1.
Arlong.
Let's look at Arlong from Season 1. Arlong was a towering, terrifying, racist fishman who physically dominated Luffy. He felt incredibly dangerous. Now we look at Wapol.
Quite a contrast.
Wapol is a petty, cowardly, selfish former king who possesses the Munch Munch fruit, which lets him eat inanimate objects like a lamp or a cannon and incorporate them into his body.
Right.
I have to ask, from a purely cinematic standpoint, watching a rubber teenager fight a goofy guy who eats furniture lacks the visceral punch of the Arlong fight. Did they sacrifice action for emotion? Does having a goofy, pathetic villain as the final boss of the season undermine the stakes of the show?
It is a completely understandable critique if you view the narrative purely through the lens of a martial arts action show. But if we analyze the thematic structure of Drum Island, Wapol's physical weakness and pathetic nature are entirely the point.
Really? How so?
The true conflict of Drum Island is not a test of Luffy's physical strength. It is an ideological battle. Wapol is terrifying not because he can punch hard, but because he represents systemic tyranny, extreme selfishness, and apathy.
Right. He abandoned his people.
He is a ruler who literally hoarded all the competent doctors on the island within his castle, leaving his citizens to freeze and die of preventable diseases simply to ensure they remain dependent on him.
Ah, so it's a commentary on the weaponization of healthcare. And just to be clear to the listener, we are just analyzing the thematic structure the show is presenting here, not taking a stance on the politics of it. But that is clearly what the text is doing.
Precisely. Defeating Wapol isn't about overcoming a physical titan. It's about Luffy and Chopper dismantling the concept of a closed, fearful, dependent society. The stakes aren't just survival. The stakes are Chopper's soul and the freedom of an entire nation's people to care for one another again.
I see that. It's a localized emotional climax rather than a world-ending physical brawl. And when you frame it that way, Wapol is the perfect antithesis to Dr. Hiruluk's philosophy of selfless healing.
Furthermore, the show brilliantly mitigates the weak villain critique by ensuring that the overarching intellectual and physical threat of the season isn't Walpole at all.
Right, Walpole is just a regional tyrant.
The true menace lurking in the background of the entire season is the criminal syndicate Baroque Works.
Which takes us from local thugs to geopolitical terrorism.
Exactly. The scale escalates dramatically. We meet several eccentric agents, most notably Mr. 3, played perfectly by David Dastmalchian.
He was so creepy.
He uses his devil fruit to control theatrical hardening wax, turning the little garden arc into a strategic, psychological nightmare for the crew. But beyond Mr. 3, the season introduces the absolute heavy hitters of this organization.
Yes. We get the introduction of Nico Robin, who initially operates under the codename Miss All Sunday, played by Lyra Avova.
She is fantastic.
She is an incredibly mysterious, elegant, yet deeply dangerous presence. She clearly has her own hidden agenda, acting almost as a shadow broker. And then, the curtain is finally pulled back on the ultimate mastermind, Sir Crocodile operating as Mr. Zero.
Played by Joe Manganiello.
The casting of Joe Manganiello was kept under incredibly tight wraps, and when he finally appeared, it sent absolute shockwaves through the fandom.
Crocodile is positioned as a mafia boss-level threat. He exudes a terrifying, quiet power. In the finale, we see him orchestrating what he calls Operation Utopia, a massive, intricately planned conspiracy designed to entirely destabilize and destroy the desert kingdom of Arabasta.
He isn't just a pirate sailing around looking for buried treasure. He's a warlord attempting a sophisticated geopolitical coup from the shadows. And speaking of the shadows, Crocodile's machinations lead us perfectly into the deeper structural world building of the show. I want to shift gears because the level of detail the showrunners hid in the background of this season is staggering. I know there is deep lore here that the manga readers are losing their minds over. Can we unpack the Easter eggs?
We absolutely must, because the Easter eggs in Season 2 are not just cheap fan service, they are architectural load-bearing beams for the endgame of the entire series.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's start with a seemingly innocuous conversation in the first episode between the executed Pirate King, Gold Roger, and the Marine Vice Admiral Garp. During this exchange, Roger casually mentions the hero of God Valley.
Now, if you are just a casual Netflix viewer, God Valley just sounds like a cool, generic fantasy location. But reading the Reddit reactions, that name drop is a massive deal. Why?
Because for the uninitiated, God Valley is the site of a legendary, world-altering battle that took place decades ago. It involved an unprecedented temporary alliance between the pirate Roger and the Marine Garp to take down a world-threatening pirate named Rox D. Zebek.
Wait, so why does an old battle matter to Luffy's journey right now?
Because Rox D. Zebek is the father of Blackbeard, and Blackbeard is a major overarching antagonist whose dark presence is already beginning to be felt in the periphery of the story.
Oh, wow.
Mentioning God Valley is a massive flag planted in the ground, signaling to the audience that the showrunners know exactly where the grand political narrative is heading.
That is incredible foresight. And it doesn't stop there. I spotted a detail during the Logtown sequence. Nami and Usopp are seen walking through a busy marketplace, and the archway above them clearly reads Figureland Square.
Another massive hint.
Again, it sounds like random set dressing, but the lore implications are massive, right?
Huge. In the deepest lore of the source material, Figureland is not a place. It is the name of an elite, terrifyingly powerful bloodline within the world government. They are celestial dragons, the untouchable, absolute rulers of the world.
Okay, but how does that connect to the crew?
Well, it is heavily implied in the manga that Shanks the pirate who inspired Luffy to set sail and gave him the straw hat belongs to this very Figureland bloodline.
So placing that name in Logtown, the city of the Pirate King's execution, is this brilliant, subtle nod to the deeply entrenched, corrupt political history of this world.
Exactly.
And speaking of deep history, we have to talk about the blink-and-you-miss-it appearance of Sabo.
This was a masterclass in grounding the protagonist. For those who don't know, Sabo is the second in command of the Revolutionary Army.
Which is a global organization actively trying to topple the corrupt world government.
Right. But much more importantly, on a personal level, he is Luffy's sworn brother, a brother whom Luffy firmly believes died when they were children. Showing the adult Sabo's silhouette now is a massive tease for the emotional turmoil to come.
And it's coupled with this incredibly quiet, emotional moment in Episode 2. Luffy is asleep on the deck of the Going Merry, and he mumbles in his sleep, 5 more minutes, Dodon.
That broke my heart.
Dodon is the gruff, tough-loving bandit foster mother who raised Luffy, his brother Ace, and Sabo in the mountains. Mentioning her by name grounds Luffy's backstory. It reminds the audience that before he was an invincible rubber god, he was just a kid with a family.
Which brings us to the most visually striking Easter egg of the season.
The sun god Nika pose. This absolutely blew my mind when I understood the context.
Yeah.
So while Luffy is singing to Laboon the whale, trying to calm him down, he strikes this very specific, joyful, arms and legs bent pose.
It just looks like a silly dance move.
Right. But later in the season, on the island of Little Garden, the giant warrior Dory is shown carving wooden statues around his campfire. The camera pans, and we see that one of the statues perfectly matches the silhouette of Prince Loki of Elbaf, a location they haven't even visited yet.
Elbaf is way down the line.
But the other statue is of the mythical sun god Nika, and it is striking the exact same hyper-specific pose that Luffy did on the ship.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this visual connection raises the most important thematic question in all of One Piece: the battle between destiny and freedom.
How so?
Well, in the deepest lore of the story, the sun god Nika is a legendary warrior of liberation, a figure who brings smiles and frees slaves, and it connects directly to the true hidden nature of Luffy's rubber abilities.
To seed that visual motif this early in the live-action adaptation, to visually link the carefree kid singing to a whale with a legendary god of liberation is absolute proof of a master plan.
And the background details are just relentless to support that plan. We get sightings of Pandaman toys in Town.
Pandaman being the original creator, Aikiro Oda's famous joke character who hides in the background of the manga panels, right?
Exactly. We also see the marine smoker visiting a bartender named Raoul, which is actually a deep-cut homage to a non-canon filler episode of the original anime.
I love that. It shows a deep respect not just for the original manga, but for the anime adaptation's history as well. And then there's a newspaper that the villain Mr. Five reads that casually mentions the island of Water 7, teasing a massive storyline that wouldn't happen until roughly Season 5 of this show.
The world is so connected.
The same newspaper mentions the rebuilt pet shop of the little dog Chow Chow from Season 1. It makes the world feel incredibly alive, reactive, and interconnected.
And finally, we have the Reverie flashback. We see a flashback to a global political summit where a young Princess Vivi is struck by a young, arrogant Walpole.
Right, from Drum Island.
But during the scene, there are passing mentions of the assassinated Queen Otoheim of Fishman Island and a reference to the Fishman warlord Jinbe.
What does the inclusion of all this dense political lore signify to you? Because it could have just made a fun, simple pirate show.
It signifies unparalleled creative confidence. By name-dropping Water 7, Jinbe, and God Valley, the showrunners are proving that they are not flying by the seat of their pants.
Right, they have a plan.
These are structural pillars. They are explicitly communicating to the audience and to the Netflix executives holding the purse strings that they have a cohesive, meticulously mapped-out vision. They are actively preparing the infrastructure for 5, 6, or even 7 seasons down the line.
They aren't just adapting a season of television. They are building a sustainable cinematic universe.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've looked at the beautiful microscopic details, we've analyzed the character psychology, and we've explored the massive world building. But taking a step back, what is the objective consensus on the season as a whole? Let's get to the final verdict. We have to weigh the monumental strengths against the very real weaknesses.
Let's start by summarizing the objective strengths, which are undeniably substantial.
The world expansion, for one.
The massive world expansion was handled expertly. The transition from the relatively safe East Blue to the chaotic Grand Line felt appropriately awe-inspiring and dangerous.
And the emotional stuff landed, too.
The staggering emotional storytelling, specifically surrounding Chopper's backstory and Nami's vulnerability, provided a dramatic weight that elevated the entire series beyond its cartoon origins.
The production design was vastly improved as well, building practical sets for Logtown and using advanced lighting techniques to make Little Garden and Drum Island look like real lived-in places prevented the show from feeling like a sterile green screen soundstage.
And as we discussed, the incredible, genuine character chemistry of the Straw Hat crew is the emotional glue holding it all together.
The rating consensus across the board is that Season 2 is a clear, definitive upgrade from Season 1, sitting solidly around an 8.5 to 9.5 out of 10 for most fans and critics.
However, a fair, rigorous, and impartial review must also acknowledge the critiques. Sourcing from deep Reddit discussions and critical reviews, there are a few recurring structural weaknesses. First and foremost are the pacing issues.
Yes, the 8-hour runtime is a blessing, but it also creates a trap. Because they had to compress so much narrative into 8 episodes, some of the mid-season arcs, particularly around Whiskey Peak and the start of Little Garden, felt noticeably rushed.
The mechanics of television compression inherently demand sacrifices. Some viewers felt the narrative in those middle episodes was running at 1.5x speed.
They were just flying through the plot points.
Because they had to get from the assassination plot in Whiskey Peak to the dinosaur battles in Little Garden so quickly, they sacrificed quieter character moments in favor of relentless plot progression. It left some viewers feeling breathless in a way that wasn't entirely positive.
I can definitely see that. It's an incredibly tough balancing act. There were also some specific critiques regarding the visual effects.
Oh, the Alvida stuff.
Yeah, while Smoker's tangible fog and Chopper's hybrid design were universally praised, other effects were less successful. Specifically, the villain Alvida, who ate the slip-slip fruit, making her body completely frictionless. Her effects were described by many as looking a bit wonky and unnatural.
Right, when she slides around, it lacks the physical weight that grounded the rest of the show.
Furthermore, there were complaints from the action junkie demographic about the fight choreography utilizing wire work.
Yeah, in certain gravity-defying scenes, the actors felt floaty, hanging on visible harnesses, rather than delivering the bone-crunching, grounded impact of a physical brawl that we saw in Zoro's early fights.
And from a purely fan expectation standpoint, there was a highly vocal disappointment regarding the finale's ending.
The missing post-credit scene.
Yes, many fans assumed, based on the pacing of the manga, that the final hook for Season 3 would be a post-credit scene teasing Luffy's wildly popular older brother, Porcus the Ace.
And it just wasn't there.
The lack of that tease left some hardcore fans feeling slightly deflated as the credits rolled.
But even when you impartially weigh those minor technical flaws and pacing issues against the monumental emotional and structural achievements of this season, the conclusion is undeniable.
Oh, absolutely.
This show definitively proves that live-action anime adaptations can actually work, and work brilliantly.
They have established a brand new gold standard for how to respect the source material while intelligently adapting it for a new medium. It is a triumph of tone, of passion, and of meticulous planning.
It proves that the curse can be broken if the creators approach the material with genuine reverence, and crucially, a willingness to embrace the inherent, unapologetic weirdness of the world without sanding off its edges.
It is a testament to the power of taking the source material seriously. What an incredible, wild journey this season has been.
Truly.
So what do you think? You've heard our breakdown, but we want to hear your perspective. Was Season 2 better than Season 1 for you?
Let us know.
Did the emotional highs of Dr. Hiruluk's speech hit as hard for you as they did for us? And which character's growth stood out the most in your eyes? Was it Zoro taking on an army for his friends, Nami becoming the fragile heart of the crew, or Usopp finding his courage among the giants?
Your perspectives and debates always add so much vital context to these analyses.
And before we go, please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share this deep dive on the Noolisam YouTube channel. We have so many more expansive explorations coming your way, and your support is exactly what keeps this ship sailing.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over. We spent the last hour dissecting how Netflix, a platform with a historically rocky track record with anime, successfully adapted a talking, shape-shifting, blue-nosed reindeer and rendered a prehistoric island inhabited by battling giants with profound, tear-jerking emotional resonance.
So crazy to me.
If they can achieve that,
Yeah.
what does this mean for the future of cinema and television? The entire equation of adaptation has fundamentally changed. Are there any stories left out there that are truly impossible to adapt, or does it just require the right crew with enough empathy and vision to sail into those uncharted waters?
It makes you wonder what other impossible symphonies are just waiting to be played. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Grand Line. We will see you on the next one.